Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Tuesday morning to you all. Hope you guys are getting up and feeling well out there this morning. Certainly having a great start to your day and a great week out there so far. Got you an update this morning on what's going to happen for the entire lower 48 or what possibly could happen. We'll give you an update on what is now Tropical Storm Harold. We'll give you an update on Tropical Storm Franklin. And we're going to try to figure this all out for you folks. Now, Harold will make landfall. By the time some of you folks are watching this video, this will already be making landfall. It did become a tropical storm, which is Harold, and it will bring impacts for sure. In fact, it already is this morning to South Texas. So we'll talk about that. We'll break this up in segments, so definitely utilize the timestamps in this video. You know me, guys, I like to talk in my intro. It helps me to really get the flow going. So, skip the intro if you need to. Don't blame you one bit. Not mad at all. I want to remind you guys I'm watching the neighbor's kids the next 2 mornings, including this morning. So if you hear any loud screams in the background, it's just a bunch of kids having fun this morning. You guys know the deal here. It's a personal type atmosphere, and occasionally you will hear my kids. But with that being said, if you folks have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. I really appreciate the growth over the summer. It's been awesome. It's starting to get really close to my personal favorite time of the year. I'm starting to get very excited. I'm a big college football fan, big football fan in general, a big fall fan. And my team is the South Carolina Gamecocks, so I'm really looking forward to next weekend heading up to Charlotte, gonna interact with game day, and I'm just really looking forward to this time of the year coming up. I always consider Labor Day weekend the gateway to the best time of the year. So really hoping we can get some cold air, some cooler air to get rid of this incredible heat that we've been dealing with over the central portion of the country. So I'm actively looking for our first widespread cold front for you folks. We'll continue to keep you updated even outside the tropics on when we could potentially see that cool down. If you folks got anything that I can pray about or pray over, as always, please put those in the comments below. That gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. Let's get rolling this morning. Water vapor loop. We'll take a big look at this, the lower 48, the Atlantic, the Pacific. Hillary, we still got a little bit of a moist flow from Hillary, but basically the remnants of her is pretty much gone. We got the tropical storm right here, about to make landfall in South Texas. We got Franklin right here, and we got what's left over of Gert just east of Franklin. Not really going to bother anybody. And then we got to watch the remnants of Emily, which does have a very small chance to redevelop. And then we have a wave that's not on this picture, way over here, still way out in the tropical Atlantic, but as of now, does not have a super high chance to develop. Got this massive ridge built over this region, so you see it right here. Tall ridge built over this entire region. We got a flow on all sides of this ridge, and then it actually wraps around like this. And this is actually what's helping to pull Tropical Storm, make sure I don't get the names mixed up, Tropical Storm Harold towards South Texas. Will bring some beneficial rains, already is this morning. And this high pressure is just dominating the middle of the country, bringing absolutely horrible heat to portions of the country. And I don't know if you folks know, but the corn sweats up there in Iowa pretty much, and it actually helps enhance the humidity. There was dew points in the low 90s in areas of western Iowa yesterday. I have never really seen that in the U.S. except outside of the U.S., which is like in the Middle East, things like that. But just unreal. We need to get rid of this for sure. The Northeast, consistent troughing. So you guys pretty much have just slipped on away to fall, leaving the rest of the country behind. And you guys just continue to just get cold front after cold front. It's pretty wild to see, but here we are. So that's kind of what's going on. You got Harold, Franklin right over here, and let's continue to move forward. Let's get this off the screen. The radar, what's going on? You can see the ridge. I mean, the flow's coming in this way, then it goes like that, and then it starts to surge back southeast. So you can actually see that flow around the high pressure was right here. There's stagnant, flowless, nasty air right where the high pressure is. Okay, nothing going on. It's not raining where we need the rain. It is raining down here. South Texas, was undergoing a drought. They'll definitely make up for some lost ground down here, and you see the tropical storm spinning away. This is about to make landfall in the next couple hours here in South Texas. Is the moisture from it. We'll actually get a closer look at this here in a second. when we talk specifically on Tropical Storm Harold. If I called this Tropical Storm Franklin at any time during this video, I do apologize. These storms just formed like literally within 24 hours of one another, and it's just I might mix them up every once in a while here in this video. But outside of that, we'll watch for a little small tornado threat in Utah today. You just got a definitely a solid flow aloft over the western U.S. that will create an avenue for some kinematics for definitely a lot of robust thunderstorm development across the western U.S., but you could get a little bit of a tornado threat in Utah today. And speaking of the severe weather threat, here's the Storm Prediction Center. We had the marginal risk through Utah into areas of southwest Wyoming, very small section of northwest Arizona. We got a solid flow aloft that's going to support plenty of lift for thunderstorm development here in the UP of Michigan, northern areas of Wisconsin. I think you guys are going to have a very rainy and stormy day up here today. We'll talk about that. And then we got the marginal risk down here in South Texas is because of Tropical Storm Harold. And we will definitely have the chance for a spin up, like we do with any kind of tropical system on the northern side of this circulation. Some of these storms will try to rotate. We'll see what happens, but just 3 marginal risk and not a big deal for anybody. But, 2 of these do have a 2% risk to see a tornado within 25 miles in any given location. And the wind threat, hail threat, just kind of standard 5% risk for each category. Not everybody sees it, but, you don't even have a 5% risk of winds up here. But that's what's going on with severe storms. The excessive rainfall outlook, little pockets that you need to watch out for. The yellows, that is a slight risk, which means there's a 15% risk of excessive rainfall being met. Basically rainfall exceeding flash flood guidance within 25 miles in a given location. This is because of Harold down here, and this is just because of a moist flow on the western portion of this ridge of high pressure right into here. So we take a look at watches and warnings. It'd be nice when we quit seeing this purple color out here, which indicates excessive heat warnings, and this orange, and when we can replace it maybe with some just nothing, quite honestly. But here we are, a good portion of the central and even into eastern sections of the U.S. being dominated by this high pressure that, I don't remember the last time I've seen this many excessive heat warnings. It's absolutely ridiculous. But here in this purple color, that's excessive heat warnings. These extend down here too, where they're being kind of overlapped by these red flag warnings, whereas extremely dry mixed with extremely hot conditions. The orange, that's heat advisories, which are extending all the way into Atlanta, Georgia, into central Georgia. The reason it's going to be very hot into the Carolinas today too, but the reason we don't have heat advisories is because the humidity will not be terrible. We'll have dew points kind of in the upper 60s, low 70s. This is quite different from the heat wave we had last week when we had dew points like in the upper 70s. So that makes a huge difference. That makes our heat index, say if your air temperature is like 98 in my neck of the woods here in Columbia, South Carolina, if it's 98, if the the dew point's like 68, 69, the heat index might only be like 102, 103. But if it's air temperature is like 98 degrees and the heat index is like 77, 78, 79, 80, then the heat index is probably well over a 10. That is definitely well over 110. That's definitely going to warrant a heat advisory for certain areas. Everybody's criteria is different though. Okay, but just very hot. Excessive heat watches up for this burgundy color right in here, and then we got some flood watches up. And this red color right here, which is very close to this burgundy color, that's tropical storm warnings, which are up for the approaching Tropical Storm Harold. So speaking of Harold, let's give you an update on Harold. It is a 45 mile per hour storm based off the latest 4 a.m. Central Time update. And yep, nothing's changed. So this is the updated information we got. 45 mile per hour storm. The worst weather is definitely right along the center and on the northern side, which means you're going to have some hefty impacts on up the coast of Texas. Tropical storm warnings extend pretty far north. I mean, all the way up to, let's see, areas of like, I would say just outside the Victoria area. Victoria obviously does not hug against the coast, but for you folks that aren't familiar with the Texas coastline, once you get pretty far south, there's like a highway, and then you have to travel a good bit of distance to actually get to the coastline. You got what is that, Padre Island here. You know, you guys in Texas, correct me if I'm wrong. I do apologize. I don't pretend like I know every geographical feature in Texas, but you got Padre Island, which is a long extending island. And this is going to be heavily impacted, especially the southern tip of the island. But you're definitely going to get some hefty impacts, even away from the center, especially north of it. I'm not talking about 200-300 miles away from the center, but certainly a good bit away from the center on the northern side of the storm. That's why you got this little orange yellowish color right here, and this is where it's showing current wind field estimate with tropical storm conditions in this orange area right here. So this is what's going on with Harold, moving west-northwest at 18 miles per hour. So one of the reasons why, two reasons why this didn't explode in the Gulf. One is because it's dealing with a little bit of a shear. The same thing that's steering this is giving it a little bit of shear on this storm, this kind of flow around this high pressure. And then two, I would say, it's just because it didn't have enough time over the Gulf of Mexico. It really didn't. And sometimes you can have all the ingredients in the world, guys. But if this thing just flat out struggles to get its structure together, then it's going to work against all those favorable ingredients. So that's kind of what's happened with Harold, and that's kind of what we were expecting with Harold. Harold looks like a half-eaten sandwich out there. Not a half a cane necessarily, but you know, it's got the low-level circulation probably into here somewhere. Like I said, most of this convection is kind of moving into Texas right now or north of it. This is just south of the low-level circulation right into here, and not a whole lot going on, but this is definitely going to bring a steady stream of convection into the southern coastline of Texas. And yeah, it's definitely not a healthy looking tropical storm by any means. But you know, the hurricane hunters went into here to recon mission, and they did find, this is the center of circulation right into here, they did find some hefty winds on the northern side of this system. I mean, you see these winds coming out the, excuse me, I'm kind of brain farting here. The winds coming out the east right here. These areas in red right here indicate winds exceeding 50 to 60 knots. So, I mean, that's 65, 70 mile per hour wind gust at flight level here. So this definitely indicates a tropical storm. It's just most of the strongest winds are on the northern side of this weak tropical storm. And typically weaker tropical storms are like this. They're kind of lopsided with where their strongest conditions are. And Harold is certainly no different in this case. So we'll continue to keep flowing with Harold's update here. And this is the latest HRRR model. It's actually doing well compared to what's going on radar right at this moment. We got a pretty hefty band that had just moved on shore. It's affecting Corpus Christi. It's affecting, what is that, Highway 77 right there. Yep, Highway 77. It affected Brownsville and everybody in between. This is moving inland, and in fact, it has prompted flash flood. What is this? No, this is just a special, I think this is just a special marine statement here. But it is definitely probably got standing water on the roads here. Need to watch out just because this area is very dry. So it's not going to take a whole lot of tropical rains for this rain to add up in this region. But you see the spin. I mean, clear as day into this region. Okay. You see this spin. This will continue to move. And then I would think the strongest winds is going to be on here, and this will make its way on shore. So I think once we get into later this morning, you are certainly going to get a period of very gusty winds, even some strong winds into Corpus Christi and surrounding regions for sure. So definitely be aware of this. Tropical storm will make landfall here in the next few hours into South Texas. So if we look at the HRRR model and how this will work for us today, this will continue. We start to get into 8-9 a.m. and then we start to get into about late morning, and this is fully made landfall at this point. But some of these bands are, you know, coming a little bit north of Corpus Christi for sure. But the worst weather's along this Highway 77 down to Brownsville. And there's going to be some gusty winds. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if we get some power outages, some down trees. And the core, wherever the core of Harold will be, basically where the fist of the strongest winds will be, this will be where you could get some power outages, some down trees, some gusty winds up to 50 to 60 miles per hour. Certainly possible. And then you got to watch out with some of these bands. These could bring some water spouts onshore. You could get some tornadic activity with some of these storms on the northern side of this system for sure. So we need to watch out for these little storms right into here. They could definitely, you know, I would say well south of San Antonio, but on down Interstate 37, down to Kingsville. You guys watch out. Could be some spinners out there. We get into this afternoon, and this is heading off into northern Mexico. And I think by the time we get into this evening, we're just kind of dealt with Probably just some lingering showers, maybe some storms, but some breezy conditions. But after that, it should be just about done. Now, here comes the winds with Harold. I keep almost wanting to say Franklin, but we're not going to say it. This moves on shore. I would say the worst conditions moves on shore probably here in the next hour or two. I mean, you see this is the ARRL model indicating 50 to 60 mile per hour wind gust moving onshore. Well north of Brownsville, I would say somewhere between Raymondville and Kingsville. Obviously, that's not up against the immediate ocean, but somewhere between this area, it could get quite windy, and this moves in, and it could get very breezy up into Corpus Christi. 40 to 30, 40 mile per hour wind gusts are possible. Even breezy all the way up into San Antonio and Houston from this. Could get some 20 mile per hour wind gusts today. Just a nice breeze. At least you'll have a breeze, a little bit of a cloud deck to cool you guys down occasionally here in South Texas, even if you're not getting the rain that you need. But this continues to move on shore. Some gusty winds in South Texas throughout the afternoon. It could get quite breezy, some stronger wind gusts, even as this fully emerges on shore and moves inland. I mean, it's well inland at this point. It's around 8 p.m. Still dealing with breezy conditions and all of deep in South Texas. So then this fully moves into northern areas of Mexico. But there is a little bit of a tornado threat. You see these highlighted colors. This indicates some rotating updraft. So we will watch for a tornado warning or two today. I don't think we're going to get a tornado outbreak or anything, but just your typical kind of spin ups that are usually associated with tropical systems on certain sides of them. We need to definitely pay attention to this today. So be aware of any kind of tornado warnings that can kind of come up on you quick with these tropical systems. Rainfall today, I would say, I know I keep saying Corpus Christi, but that's obviously a very known area down here in Brownsville. Corpus Christi, you already picked up probably a decent amount of rain this morning. Could get another 1 to 2 inches of rain today down to Brownsville, kind of the same thing. But once you kind of get tucked into this deep into this area of South Texas, 2, 3, 4, maybe as much as 5 inches of rain very quickly today. But definitely just widespread 2 to 4 inch rainfall totals deep into South Texas. Definitely beneficial rain. We just need to get more of Texas rain. That's for sure. So the rest of the South Central U.S., we already talked about Harold down there. Outside of that, nobody else is going to get any rain today. New Mexico could get some rain showers. And some of this rain from Harold could make it all the way into Southwest Texas as we get into overnight tonight. For sure, deep down here, deep downhill. I can't talk, guys. Basically south of Interstate 10. Definitely some showers can make their way into this region once we get into the wee hours of the morning tonight from what's left over of Harold. But outside of that, just hot, miserable conditions. And speaking of the temperatures, today will be no different. Very hot. Temperatures well over 100 from Dallas, Shreveport. Little Rock will probably clip 100. Columbia, Missouri up here will get into the upper 90s. Kansas City will probably get to 100 again today. Oklahoma City, Tulsa, upper 90s to low 100s. And even though technically it's only in the upper 90s up here, we look at the heat index, guys, and it's not fun. It's not fun at all. We need to get rid of this. This is terrible. And honestly, this has been underdone. To be completely honest with you, we had a heat index of 135 degrees from a reading out here in western Iowa yesterday. But you're going to have widespread heat indices. Feels like temperatures of well over 110 to 115 degrees a day in areas of Missouri, Iowa, eastern sections of Nebraska, Kansas, and Oklahoma. Heck, maybe even areas of Arkansas. And then with just the moist, very moist air, but no real rain, really close to you're already dealing with all this heat from this heat dome. The heat index could get pretty bad here in and around the Houston area and just north and around this region today too. Just because you got a lot of moist air is being enhanced from Harold, you're certainly going to deal with some extremely humid and hot conditions today. The southeast, nothing to really speak on at all rain-wise. Nothing. Honestly, you could get just a rogue shower. You could get a flow from basically a trough trying to dig down here. So you could get some rain showers in southeast North Carolina overnight tonight, and you might wake up to some damp dampness to the ground here in southeast North Carolina, maybe even the PD of North Carolina. Could wake up to some showers tomorrow morning in Myrtle Beach, Wilmington, and surrounding regions. Outside of that, guys, nothing's going to happen today. It's going to be very hot too over here. It's hard to complain, though, us in the southeast compared to what you're dealing with in the south central U.S. in the middle of the country, but it will be very hot. Jackson will hit over 100 again. It's starting to get very dry in southern Mississippi now. Heck, even Alabama's starting to get dry. Certain areas of Alabama will get over 100, might hit 100 in Birmingham. Upper 90s in Nashville. Hotlanta will be very hot, upper 90s, and then we move over to the Carolinas. Very hot today. I think here in my neck of the woods we'll probably get over 100 degrees for sure. Very hot into the coastal plains of North Carolina, and then it gets pretty substantially cooler once you get in Virginia, and then you start to get into a nice air mass into the Northeast. And speaking of the Northeast, guys, you guys have just fully switched the fall. It's like, you know what, we're not hanging out with you guys and the rest of the country. You guys are waking up, especially if you're in the higher elevations, the inland areas of the Northeast. You guys are waking up to the 40s, the 50s. It's a little warmer closer to the I-95 corridor, but it's not too bad. You guys have just fully switched the fall. And honestly, I don't see any big heat in the future for you guys, so I don't think this is false fall. I really don't. I'm sure you'll have warm intervals, but you guys are just enjoying it. And speaking of weather, today, nothing really to speak on at all. We get into this evening, get into overnight. Some rain showers could be greeting you guys like in Erie, maybe Buffalo tomorrow morning. These could drift into deeper into central sections of PA tomorrow morning. So it could be waking up to a streamer of showers here in northeast Ohio and then western sections of Pennsylvania tomorrow morning. But outside of that, I don't see much. We talk about the north central U.S. Could be quite rainy up here in northern areas of Wisconsin, stormy, the UP and Michigan. As we get into the morning, we're just dealing with a steady streamer out the northwest, the southeast, with a little bit of flow aloft from the upper portion of this ridge that's supporting a good bit of rain today. Even when it lets up, it could get more enhanced later on tonight. This is getting closer to midnight. It's raining like cats and dogs here in the eastern UP of Michigan, and this is even kind of oozing into northern sections of Michigan down here. And this is like 1 a.m. in the morning tonight. You could get some rumbles of thunder, cooler temperatures, rumbles of thunder. Definitely a rainy night, rainy day up here in the UP of Michigan. And we'll continue to keep this going. This could make its way all the way down into the eastern sections of Michigan. And we're waking up to maybe a stormy, maybe a heavy rain tomorrow morning in eastern sections of Michigan. But there could be some severe weather with this. We'll take a closer look at this. Here's the storms. You guys could certainly be dealing with some storms. There is a marginal risk up here. I would watch out for some of these hitting strong to severe limits, especially once you get into northern Wisconsin and the southern sections of the UP and Michigan. Could get some small hail and, not really much of a tornado threat or anything like that. But, just a strong to severe storm is possible. And then it really gets pretty heavy. 3-4 o'clock in the morning, it's raining pretty good in the eastern UP, northern areas of Michigan. If you see me continuously looking down or putting my hand down, my cat done jumped on my lap here. And she looks at me and starts meowing and biting my wrist if I don't pet her. But you look at rainfall from this, you could get little isolated areas to get over an inch of rain from this, but widespread totals of 1/4 to 3/4 of an inch is quite possible to likely in these areas. So definitely gear up for a rainy day today. If it lets up, it'll probably pick back up tonight. So be prepared for that. The western U.S. still dealing with a pretty moist flow out here. I think you'll be dealing with rain. We're getting into this afternoon, dealing with rain in eastern sections of Washington. Some storms are possible in central and eastern Oregon, Idaho, western areas of Montana, Wyoming for sure. These storms could eventually move out of Wyoming into Montana this afternoon and this evening. But look at these stronger storms down here in Utah, even sections of southwest Wyoming. These storms look like they're packing a punch. Definitely some gusty conditions and a brief tornado threat with these. But you could get some stronger storms up into Idaho, western areas of Montana, and these continue just to funnel through the region. But there's definitely a stout flow aloft. You see it right here. This is, a 40, 50, maybe at times 60 knot mid-level jet flying through this region. This is the center of your high pressure, and this is the flow moving around it. And that, you see this flow right here over the Great Lakes region. That is what's creating all that lift for the shower and storm development as an upper disturbance mixes with this flow aloft. That's what's creating all that rain throughout the next 24 hours in the Great Lakes region too. But you keep this moving. I mean, the same thing's going on out here too. You got flow aloft creating lift. You got this upper level low right in here. They're kind of just working together to create a lot of flow for storms. But you look at the updraft Felicity swath for Utah today, southwest areas of Wyoming. I mean, it shows some highlighted areas right here in the greens and yellows of some rotating updrafts. So I wouldn't be surprised we get a tornado warning or two today in areas of Utah, southwest Wyoming. Definitely be aware of this around the Salt Lake City area. I don't pretend I'm not a master of the geography in Utah. I know there's areas that are mountainous, there's areas that are not. But in general, there's a lot of mountains. So definitely be aware of this today. Could get some strong and severe storms in Utah for sure. Temperatures, you just easy like Sunday morning up in the northeast. It's very nice fall-like conditions, 60s, 70s, just beautiful, beautiful conditions. A rain-cooled air up here in the Great Lakes region. But once you start to get into the Midwest, the Mid-South, the Southeast, the Deep South, the South Central, and the middle of the country, blistering hot. Summer is just flexing hard. I was talking to some coworkers today. August used to just be ridiculously hot. It used to be by far the hottest month of summer, but the last few Augusts have not been that bad. But this August has definitely stood the test of time. This has been your classic August for the South. It's very hot. But I'll throw this out there. I'm not big on this kind of stuff, but it seems like when we have a very hot August, sometimes we can have a really good winter. For you folks that know, the winters of 2009, 2010, and I believe 2010, 2011 had very hot August. So never know. Out west, dealing with an upper level low. This is keeping you guys pretty cool. And you're going to have to get off my lap, Stormy. I love you. But the cooler temperatures in the Pacific Northwest, it's well below average actually. But once you start to get into Montana, eastern sections of Montana, the high plains, well into the 90s. And warming back up in the Southwest, but nothing too crazy at all compared to average at all. An update on the tropics. We'll kind of breeze through this. And we're still watching this eastern wave. Has a 60% chance to develop in the next 7 days. The leftover of Emily has about a 20% chance to develop. And it's not going to bother anybody but the fishes out there. Gert, not even worth really mentioning. It'll basically be off the screen sometime probably later this evening. And then we got Franklin. We've already talked about Harold. We got Franklin. All right, 1,002 millibar low pressure storm, 50 mile per hour storm per the latest 5 a.m. update. Franklin has been kind of in the same area for like the last 36 hours, but he will begin to make that turn north soon. We get a look at Franklin. It is popping off some pretty robust convection this morning. It really is. Still a little bit lopsided, which we would expect with a low-end, mid-grade tropical storm. That's the Dominican Republic. That's Puerto Rico. This is the Bahamas. And you can already see, this upper trough digging down. You see these clouds streaking down. This is associated with this upper trough. This is what's going to help give Franklin a boost. So this is digging down right into here. Okay, there's a flow going like this. This will continue to dig down, and this will pick up Franklin right here and then push it northward somewhere into here. Okay, and make it basically give it some get up and make it start moving north, and then it'll make that landfall in the Dominican Republic. So that's kind of what's going on. But you see the pinks, you see the whites, that indicates cold cloud tops, which indicates some pretty deep convection that's really getting high up in the atmosphere, indicating them cold cloud tops. So we continue to move forward here. We look at the latest update from the National Hurricane Center. As of right now, 50 mile per hour storm, tropical storm warning still up. Has a chance to make landfall sometime maybe Wednesday, and then fully cross over the Dominican Republic, and then get off the northern coastline of the Dominican Republic sometime Wednesday evening, Wednesday night, and then will remain a storm, and then it's forecast to become a hurricane sometime Friday night. But you see how the cone of uncertainty bends back to the east, and then it kind of gets back to the north. Most model guidance show this. So Bermuda, you are getting closer and closer to the cone of uncertainty, of getting inside of it. So we need to watch. Latest GFS, what does it show? It actually shifts landfall a little bit further west, so it actually affects more of Haiti on this run, but we'll watch the trends with that. But then it emerges, affects areas of the southeast sections of the Bahamas, and then just kind of drifts around, then starts to move back east, begins to strengthen. We get into Friday. All right, then it just kind of meanders around this region throughout the weekend, and then it becomes a hurricane at this point. Category 1, Category 2 hurricane. Remember, Bermuda is right here. And then it feels that weakness, and then it begins to chug northward. And then this is when the eastern U.S. needs to watch this. Nova Scotia up to Newfoundland, Bermuda. As some model guidance has ticked this a little bit further west. I think this will definitely, at least at minimum, bring some massive swells to the eastern shoreline if you're going to the beach next week. But, we'll stop it here. It's 150 hours out. Next Monday morning has a pretty sizable hurricane between Bermuda and the southeast coastline. So we need to watch this. The European, same thing, emerges this into the southwest Atlantic. We get into this weekend. It definitely strengthens this a lot slower compared to the GFS, but it eventually does strengthen this. But I would say it's still a tropical storm based off the Euro by the time we get into Sunday afternoon. But then it finally begins to strengthen this somewhat. But I would still say it's a tropical storm at this point. And then we'll stop it here. This is about next Monday evening. We got a tropical storm between Bermuda and then the southeast coastline. Kind of the same thing as GFS. It's just much weaker off the Euro. Okay, there's a lot going on with the steering currents. I would say there's a trough that we need to watch out for the eastern U.S. This is going to help probably steer wherever Franklin is at. Okay, we got this massive heat dome right here in the orange colors. What you're seeing here, you see this little area right here? That is Franklin. All right, so we're getting into this evening. You see this area right into here? That is our upper trough. This is what's steering this into the Dominican Republic. Okay, but this is also a massive weakness right in here. Typically, we have this shade right here of orange right over this region. A lot of times we call that the Bermuda High, but you have this massive weakness because you keep getting consistent troughing over the northeastern portions of Canada. So you get this back off the screen here, and we get this back in motion. Give me a second. When we keep this in motion here, this is where Franklin will be, but you see this blue? That is a weakness. That is a trough. This is going to sniff out this weakness big time, and when it does, this is when it begins. You see this blue? That is Franklin. And you see another trough digging down to the northeast. A trough is basically just a weakness out here, and these help pick up these systems. It can help push them. It can help kind of yank on them, and it's a huge steering influence on these tropical systems. A ridge of high pressure is too, but typically it bogs them down. It keeps them lower in latitude. But this has a massive weakness right here. If we had a big ridge right into here, we had this orange area into here, then you would really need to worry for the southeast coastline. But there's been consistent model data showing us that we're going to have some kind of weakness right here. So this system, which is probably somewhere into here, late this weekend, feels this weakness and gets pulled northward. And then, we pretty much stop after that because we don't know exactly what's going to be going on next week. So we do know there's most likely going to be a trough, but we still need to figure it out. We look at the latest ensemble from the European. This only goes out to about next Tuesday morning, about a week from today. It shows this all making landfall on either the Haiti or the Dominican Republic, kind of getting yanked eastward and then yanked back northward. And then all eyes watch it for Bermuda, the northeast, the eastern coastline, up here to Nova Scotia, areas of Canada. And there's definitely a huge spread with this. There's another signal we need to watch too. There's energy in the eastern Pacific that could go over Central America, emerge into the Western Caribbean, and then we need to watch the Gulf of Mexico. There's been some crazy model guidance with this too, so that'll be something to watch for sure. We don't want anything getting into the Gulf of Mexico. We're already very lucky this morning with Harold, but we don't need to mess around with the Gulf of Mexico too much. That is a hot spot. So that's all I got. God bless all y'all. Have a great day, and I'll talk to you soon.